Hey, it's Anthony Rose, and you are watching 10 tiny two-step tips. So people think about the big things. What's the spin? What's the dip? What's the awesome stuff? But it's the little things they overlook that hold them back. So we're going to cover 5 of those this week. We covered 5 last week, so stick around. All right, guys, everybody thinks about the stuff, the patterns, the moves, the turns, the dips, the spins, but very few people think about the little things that connect those things together. The little things are the parts that make it either easier or more difficult for you. And if you know and you're comfortable with those things, the bigger things become a lot easier and they work a lot better. Now, if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. We appreciate you guys stopping by, but you're gonna notice down here, there's a button and it says subscribe. And if you hit that button, then you become an X Dancer too, and then you'll know when all the awesome stuff happens on the channel. We've got 5 tips for you today, starting with tip number 1. All right, tiny two-step tip number 1 for today, that's a lot of T's, is hand placement. We're talking about the places you touch each other. There are some good ways to touch each other, some really good ways to touch each other, and some not so good ways to touch each other. Okay, so when we're in basic dance hold, we all know this is called a closed position. What we really need to address is what the followers do with this hand, okay? So too many people make the mistake of placing that hand around the outside or around his neck. They do all this stuff. And there's a huge problem with that. What happens if her hand is on the outside and I want to turn her quickly? Ouch. Right?
Thank you.
The way that we prefer to do this is to have that hand positioned on the inside. Let me show you that. All right, guys, if you look at Rose's left hand, her fingertips are not only pointing at me, but her hand is on the inside. So if you look at her palm is basically butt up against my delt muscle, and her fingertips are pointed at me. We don't want the hand on the outside. Again, if her hand is on the outside, it's gonna cause some connection problems. We've seen some people get actually injured that way. But if her hand is positioned on the inside, if I were to turn her to the left, I can still release that hand comfortably, and even if I turn her to the right, her hand can comfortably get through, okay? The second thing this does is because her palm is facing me, she can put a little bit of pressure into it, she can actually feel when I'm moving forward and back that way. So with her hand positioned on the inside, fingertips slightly tilted towards me, if I were to lead her through a turn, her hand can comfortably get to that spot. And it doesn't matter what dance position we're in, whether we're in closed position or whether we're in promenade or whatever position, if her hand is here, it cannot be wrapped around me, it needs to be on the inside. Try that and see if that helps. All right, guys, tiny two-step tip number 2 is, if you don't have anything to say, shut up. That's basically what we're saying. So leading and following dancing is something where you're communicating, you're asking her to do stuff, and the way that you ask her to do stuff is the things you make her feel, okay? So if you're not asking her to do stuff, don't ask her to do stuff. That's what we're saying. So let me show you what the mistake that people make all the time. All right, guys, we communicate to her with the places we're touching. So I have my hand to hand, her hand is my shoulder, elbow to elbow, hand to back. These are the things that I can use to communicate stuff to her, all right? Now, and if I'm not saying anything, I don't want to be moving them around. So if I'm moving at a two-step and then I go to lead a turn, I might bring the hand up, place it into that halo. Now that it's up, I can rotate it around and bring it back down. Now, what if on the other hand, we were dancing two-step and I was doing this? It's going to be much more difficult for her to understand the hand is coming up for that turn. So if we don't have anything to say, we want to keep the things quiet until there is a communication happening. Then it's easier for her to understand, hey, something has changed. So what we really want is we want to be moving that smoothly, bring the hand up only when necessary, and rotate that hand around. Any change in that dance position or change in the places we're communicating, also known as the places we're touching, any change in that, she can then hear that better. But if you're just making a bunch of noise, now we get it, like, we want to get into it, we want you guys to have fun and move around, like, you're feeling the music, you're doing stuff, but just understand as a leader, she has to hear what you say. So if you're just making a bunch of noise with your frame, what happens is she's just hearing a bunch of static on the line, and then it makes it more difficult for her to actually hear the things that you're actually saying to her. So if you don't have anything to say, what do? You shut up. Hey guys, we're getting ready to get into the next step, but before we do, I want to personally invite you guys to check out X Dance University. Just go to xdanceuniversity.com. Something completely different than anything you've ever seen before. This is an interactive virtual training platform. Basically, it's almost like having Rose and I as your personal coach in your living room or in your, don't watch it in the shower, but go to xdanceuniversity.com, check that out. Now back to the next tip. All right, tiny two-step tip number 3 is lead with the body, not with the hands and the feet and other things, okay, is basically what we're saying. We try to lead and follow with what we do with our centers, with our bodies, okay? So a lot of people do a lot of pumping of the arms. Now, I know we just had that tip a minute ago where we talked about being quiet, right? This is kind of building off of that, okay? So if I were to go from a closed position and into a promenade, what actually happens is I take my body and I rotate my body. She stays attached to that, and that's how she knows to go. One mistake that people will make is they'll push the arms, they'll do all of this stuff, and she's not gonna be able to interpret that as well because you're breaking frame, okay? So anytime we do something, not just in two-step and all other dances, we wanna try to lead things with our body there. I'm rotating from that position, and I want to try to do everything with my body as much as possible. The thing that I'm leading on her is not her hands, it's her body. It just happens that her arms and hands are the parts that we're touching to communicate to the body. It's her body, her core, her center. That's the part we want to do stuff. So we have to think about communicating to her center through her arms and not with her arms. Now, one more thing that we need to talk about is the feet. So if we're in dance position and I want to go, she can't feel that.
Yes. I mean, I'll feel it, but it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's gonna feel it on top of her feet is what's gonna happen, all right? So she can't feel your feet moving. What she can feel are the places that she's physically in communication, which means that she has to feel that with your body. So if I'm here, she can feel that. I actually lead with the body and respond with the feet. I don't lead with the body and then bring my body over top, okay? So lead with the body, not the hands, not the feet, not the toes, not your earlobes, okay? So try to lead and follow with the body. All right, guys, tiny two-step tip number 4 is be where you gotta be and do what you gotta do, okay? We have a leader and we have a follower and we have different roles. Her job is to go where she's gotta go, which is one direction, always down the line of dance. So whatever it is that we're doing, she's consistently moving in one direction. But the thing is the leader's gotta be where he's gotta be in relation to where she is. Does that make any sense at all?
Bring it down.
Okay, let me give you an example of that. So for dancing two-step, the followers are going that way. That's really all she has to worry about. When it comes to spacing and where she's gotta be that way. She's got a place to be. The leaders need to position himself in relation to her where he needs to be, allowing her to move that way. So two-step really only has 2 alignments. We talk about this in a lot of videos. One alignment is where one partner is directly in front of the other, and one alignment is where one partner's on the outside, one partner's on the inside. So we're gonna demonstrate a pattern that actually requires him to keep himself where he needs to be, which is on the inside and slightly behind her. So if I start doing these barrel rolls, she needs to be slightly out in front, but still on the outside of the floor. I find myself in relation to her until I allow her to finish. So while she's moving that way the entire time, he just has to be basically keeping an eye on where she is and not passing her, right? So you'll find this in a lot of patterns. So here's a little bit more of an advanced pattern that really doesn't work if he gets out of alignment. So if we get into this position and I start bringing her out, again, I need to stay slightly behind her and on the inside. If I get out in front of her, that's just not going to work right, okay? So the leader's responsibility while she's moving there is to keep him where he needs to be, okay? So a lot of newer dancers focus on what are the steps, how many counts it is, what are the, all of that stuff. I'm not saying that stuff's not important, but more than anything else is the spacing alignment in the partnership itself. So just be where you gotta be in relation to her, and she's going that way. So keep that in mind for every pattern. All right, guys, tiny two-step tip number 5 is that country dancing is social dancing. We call it social dancing for a reason. It's not 2 people touching while they do their own things, okay? You have to keep in mind you have a partner. Your attention and your intention needs to be on your partner both ways. Now, here's one thing I say all the time. Nobody ever has and no one ever will choose social dancing because they don't like people. right? Like there's a reason that we can talk about, yes, it's great for your health and you want to exercise. Oh, I just love the music and I want to move to it and all that stuff. All that stuff might also be true, but the reason why people social dance is because of the social aspect. Or you would just get on a treadmill at home and get your exercise. Or you would if you love music that much, you would just crank the music up at home and close the blinds and just do it on your own. There's no reason to choose partner dancing if it's not for the partner aspect of it. So the thing that we're saying is, be aware of making that dance enjoyable for your partner. Now, if your partner does the same thing, you're both gonna love it. So just be aware of your partner making that dance as comfortable as possible, and just making sure to have fun with that person. Make it a social activity. You're having a conversation, theoretically. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Slap me.
Translation.
On my nips.
What just happened? Subscribe!